What's up, guys? It's Dave of CigarNoise TV, and tonight we're joined by Jon Huber of Crown Heads.
Dave, how you doing? Good to see you. My business partner and I, Mike Condor, started Crown Heads back in 2011. We started shipping our first cigars in November of 11. Mike and I were both originally from the old CAO company back in the day. So yeah, this November will be 5 years of shipping for us. So it's kind of our 5th year anniversary coming up.
Round one, Jon. What is the Crown Heads elevator pitch?
We just have a different approach, different mindset. We're just all about making products that we would enjoy smoking, and then hopefully other people connect with it as well. But in terms of the vision of Crown Heads as a brand, it goes much further than just cigars. I mean, I have ideas to extend the brand into other places, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do that in years to come.
Round two. How'd you get started in the cigar industry many moons ago?
I just kind of stumbled on cigars, to be honest with you. I needed a gift for my father to go back to California and for Thanksgiving or something. So I said, well, cigars are kind of cool. And I had found this cigar store called Uptowns in Nashville. And so I bought cigars, smoked some cigars with him. And then I found a magazine, Cigar Aficionado, with the George Burns cover. And I started reading about it. I got very intrigued with cigars. And, at that time, there were no Craigslist job openings or any, want ads that said cigar guy or whatever. But for whatever reason, I decided this is what I wanted to do. I became very passionate about cigars. And so I took that same magazine and I literally contacted every person in that magazine from the start of the magazine to the back, even Cigar Aficionado. And I wrote letters and sent emails and what have you, and got turned down by literally every company in that magazine. I couldn't even get hired by Uptowns where I bought the cigars. I wanted to get a $7 an hour clerk job.
Wow.
And they wouldn't even hire me. So I was literally, it expired every opportunity, I think. And then there was one more ad in the magazine. It was the last ad in the book, and it was CAO International at 830 Kendall Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm like, I had just moved to Nashville, maybe 8 months prior to that. And so I found out who owned the company, wrote a letter, didn't hear anything for like 4 months. And then I got a phone call where I was working at the time. And it was from Jon Huber, who was the owner of CAO. He said, I don't have a need for anything. We're really small, but I need somebody to do shipping. I need a shipping manager. And I was like, I'm in, just give me a chance.
All right, so round three. Talk to us about your event-only cigars and snake oil and what's the deal with it and all that kind of stuff.
The idea, some of our reps said we really would like an event-only cigar. And so it's nothing novel in our industry. A lot of people do it. So I selected a particular blend made at my father's cigars, and it was going to be an event-only cigar, and which it continued to be. So we needed a name for it, and at the time, I was just seeing so much bullshit in our industry that it felt like everybody was like, 2 clicks away from a snake oil salesman, an old whatever. So let's just call it snake oil. Then I got a phone call one day from somebody in the business, and they said, "You've got a problem." And I was like, "I do." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You have a cigar called snake oil." And I said, "Well, yes and no. It's an event-only cigar. It's not for commerce. It's just something we use with gift with purchase." And he said, "Well, did you look into it? Is it?" I Googled it initially, and I looked it up. Nothing came up. He says, "Well, Google snake oil trademark," and then it comes up. He had registered it like in 2012, right? But I couldn't see anything where it was ever for commerce or ever said. I didn't care at that point. I'm like, fine, whatever. I don't really give a shit. So we changed it to blood medicine, and blood medicine was something that I had in the back of my mind for a while because it's a cool story. But there's a restaurant downtown that dates back to like the late 1800s in downtown Nashville called Merchants, and a friend of mine is proprietor there, and I remember going upstairs to this, like the 3rd floor or the 2nd floor, and this building used to be like an old pharmacy back in the day. And so they still had the painting on the wall where it said blood medicine, which is what, that they would sell for whatever at the pharmacy. So I always wanted to do something called blood medicine. So the artist formerly known as Snake Oil became Blood Medicine to satisfy somebody who was trademark happy. We maybe have less than a couple of 200-300 cigars left in inventory, and we're phasing it out. We're not even going to do it anymore. So it's it's come and gone.
So round 4, everybody's always excited to hear about the new stuff, man. So what have you got coming out for us over the next 12 months or so? And we can start from IPCPR since I know that's pretty fresh.
Yeah, this year we released Le Carême, which is a line out of Tabacalera La Alianza, with using them broadleaf for the first time with Ernie in a regular production cigar. And then we also released Las Mareas from my father's cigars, which is what I'm smoking right now. And that is what's interesting about Las Mareas is it's 100% Garcia grown tobaccos. It's a very, I would like to say, I hate to use the word Cubanesque, but it's in review after review that I've seen, it's got a very Cubanesque profile to it. And I think part of that reason is because when the wrapper was explained to me, Pepin said that the Corojo 99 seed was the original Cuban seed. And if anybody would know, it would be Pepin. One of the ideas I have for Las Calaveras 2017 is a very interesting one that I'm hoping we can figure out a way to make it happen. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right, so round 5. This is probably my favorite question. Many of your cigars have non-traditional inspirational sources, from music to outlaws to everything else. So what currently is inspiring you right now?
That is a good question because, I mean, if you look at the track record, pretty much all of our cigars have a story behind it. And then part of the reason to that is that I think that everything has to have a reason for existing. You can't just force something. There's got to be a germ of motivation or inspiration, whether that be from a sound, something sonically, like that's what Headley Grange came off of, a drum sound, or a lyric like Four Kicks, or or a culture. Las Mareas, the tides. It hit me in Hawaii about big wave surfing, and that's always the starting point, and then we go from there. Right now, I would probably say fashion of all things. I guess because I'm in the process of designing, co-designing merchandise and apparel for the fall coming out. So I've been looking at a lot of fashion designs that are from outside of the cigar industry.
Round 6. We've seen a lot of successes from Crown Heads, but what about behind the scenes failures? Is there anything that you would change if you could go back in time?
Well, I'll touch on the failure part of it, but there's nothing I would change, because one of my personal philosophies is that everything we do in life, good, bad, or indifferent, brings you to the point where you are today. And if you're happy in today, in the moment, then everything you did brought you to that point. If I had to look at our track record and grade things, I think that the Mason-Dixon project maybe was not exactly the home run that I'd anticipated it to be. We did a Mason-Dixon project, which is where we did a regional for the North and the South. We did it for 2014, 2015, and then I killed it. We're not going to do it 2016. I just don't think that we were able to convey, whether that's my fault or how we sold it at the retail level, we were just not able to convey the actual the exercise of the regionality or the blends. And for instance, like the 2014 Mason-Dixon South release, to this day is one of my favorite cigars. I would love to be able to have released the blend nationally, but people didn't get it, and they just didn't understand it. It was a Connecticut Ecuador wrapper. It was lighter, but an amazing cigar to have with a cup of coffee in the morning, something we don't really have in our portfolio right now. But it didn't fly off the shelves the way that I'd anticipated it would. So to that point, I would probably say that Mason-Dixon overall, I'd probably give it like a C-. Okay. And then the Jericho Hill Lancero, oddly enough, there's one that I thought, even my sales guys were like, oh my God, I was going to order a certain number of boxes. When my sales guys found out about the project, they're like, oh, we can sell, twice that. Are you kidding me? So we upped the order. and ended up not selling it out right away. It took a long, in fact, we still have stock on it. And everybody that smokes it loves it, but it just didn't, you know, I've kind of learned that Lanceros are like the most popular size that doesn't sell. Everybody wants, everybody wants a Lancero, and they all talk about Lanceros and being the connoisseur cigar and this, that, and the other. But at the retail level, it just doesn't move the way you would anticipate it moving.
All right, so round 7. What's the biggest lesson you learned from CAO before you launched Crown Heads?
John had a mantra. Jon Huber, the founder of CAO, and it was make it happen. And, you know, you would walk into that office back in the day and it was nothing really. I mean, we were getting off the ground, and, you know, somebody would come into the table and say, oh, I got an idea. He's like, great, make it happen. And as much as you would think that means like, I don't care, just do whatever you want. No, it meant literally, if you have an idea, there's nothing holding you back from pursuing it except for your own limitations or your own fears or your own, you know, holding you back. There's nothing holding you back but yourself. And an example of that is back in the late 90s, there was an HBO show called The Sopranos. And people were starting to notice that they were smoking cigars on there. And so somebody said one day, wow, I wish we can get our cigars on The Sopranos. Jon said, make it happen. And I'll spare you the details of how it happened, but I took that and I said, okay, let's go for it. So I got in touch with a property, what do they call them, a placement kind of company in Hollywood, and negotiated a deal to get CAO on. And we actually became, you know, we got a good relationship with HBO at that time. And that led to the Sopranos Edition cigar, which we released. And I think General Cigar just re-released something based upon that called the Consigliere or something like that.
Speaking of which, and this is timely, but where do you see Crown Heads in the next 3 or even 10 years?
Let's put it this way. I think there will be a shakeout in the industry, a cleansing period of some shape or form, where you won't see as the same list as you see now. Mike's goal is that we're going to be standing in 3 years from now, and, you know, I won't accept anything else but that. So we're going to be doing what we're doing now, but, you know, will it be with the same manufacturers? Will it be with more manufacturers? We don't know. I mean, that's my goal right now, is just to keep this thing going. And I think we're in a good position to do so. 10 years from now, I would like to see the Crown Heads brand expanded past cigars into other things, whether that be apparel, lifestyle, more of a lifestyle brand, maybe some other consumable, you know, whether that be like a coffee or something. I don't know. I just want to take what the philosophies and rules that we've applied in this industry and maybe branch out a little bit.
For round 9, if somebody were to make a Crown Heads evening out of 3 cigars and they were going to pair them up the whole 9 yards, how would you do that? Which cigars would you pick? What order would you place them in, and what would you pair them as?
All right, now I'm going to have to default to the pairing question because, unlike most people in the cigar industry, I don't drink spirits.
That's fair.
If you're going to start with 3 cigars, I'd probably start with something a little, probably more medium in body, maybe like an Arrington Vineyard Double W, which is very difficult to find, but was a great blend. And then from there, I'd progress to something a little heavier, maybe like Jericho Hill, which is a San Andres Mexican wrapper. I call it the poor man's Padron. And then and I might top it off with something that's got some real balls to it, like a La Imperiosa. That's probably from the flavor scale of what we do. Most of it is in the medium to full range, but I would say La Imperiosa might be one of the fuller, more structured cigars that would stand up to a really nicely with a rum or a bourbon.
Now for round 10, you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper for us because I know it's been a long time, about 20 years. But what are 2 takeaways you can give us that you learned from being in the industry that you did not know from the consumer standpoint?
Everything's making a cigar is like you're rolling a cigar. That's the very last step, applying the wrapper to the bunch. it's all the steps before that that blew me away. Just how intricate the process is, which is, I think, in retrospect, that's probably why I have so much respect for the factories and the people that work in the factories now, because I know what is involved on a day-to-day basis. So it's almost like, to me, it's ridiculous for guys like myself, like brand owners, to take any kind of credit to something that, you're not doing on a daily basis. I mean, if I could take credit for anything, it might be having a decent palate, and maybe having some cool ideas here and there. But the actual making of the cigar and the agriculture of the cigar and getting it from the seed to the shelf, it's amazing.